Hey there guys, we now have the unit data for Cool Moves Addison Rae, and in this video I'm going to be taking a look at her and we're going to go over her kit. So as we know, the unit is heavily based off of an old Dragon Quest skipped unit from the JP server, Yao, and she definitely is extremely based off of Yao. But now that we have the full unit data, it looks like Global has actually gone through and made some pretty significant upgrades to the kit. This, honestly, is a huge improvement over what they did with Kier. With Kier, they copied the unit Porin and basically just made the unit worse. With Kier, Porin was a true Brave Shift unit. He had a form to hide in. They changed Kier to an SLB unit, and they didn't really upgrade the kit at all. It was pretty much an exact copy-paste. I guess they learned their lesson because Kier was unpopular, because with Addison Rae, they actually went in and pretty decently upgraded the Yao unit to make it into Addison Rae. So let's go ahead and go over the kit. So as far as categories, nothing special. Clash of Wills, as we expected, she has morale scaling, light, attacker, and another world. That just means collaboration. All collaborations have the another world category. But no special categories like, rebel, gathering, etc. As far as her stats and all, they're actually pretty decent. Her base stats are a little bit behind the standard, but she's got a lot of flat stats to make up for it. She does have, high resist across the board, some okay-ish immunities, not immune to paralyze, but, overall pretty decent on that front. Equipment, honestly, you're going to pretty much always be using Fist on her. And then the pretty standard stuff. Cannot use helms, so you can't use the Clash of Wills helm without a materia, but overall kind of whatever. And real quick, before we get into the kit, I want to go over this this STMR. So one thing a lot of people are seeing on the STMR is normal attack hits 4 times. That'd be so great on this unit. Keep in mind, this normal attack hits 4 times is only available to Addison Rae. It will not work on other units. That is a unit-locked passive. Only Addison can get a 4 times attack on normal. So I just wanted to clear that up. I saw a lot of people saying, I'm going to pull for the unit, and I'm going to give my, Item World Berserked Riku 4 times normal attack. Unfortunately, that will not work. You cannot do that. Anyway, back to the kit. So as far as the actual kit, it's almost unchanged from Yao. It's very, very similar. So 150 Amplify. Honestly, the entire kit, the entire active kit is literally a copy of Yao. It is all the exact same. Some small changes. They changed her chaining skills to have morale on them. You're not going to use these for damage regardless, but she can quad attack these, so this is going to be a 2000 modifier attack if you're quadding her chains, which is pretty bad. Yeah, her chaining damage is not going to be good. But it is better. It does have morale scaling now. The rest of the kit, exact copy-paste of Yao. Exact, down to the letter, with a few small changes. The big upgrades are in her passives. We'll get to that in a second. But the one big global exclusive active change is she does have an AoE ramping light amplify, just like Sylvie, Melissa, etc., except hers is locked to Clash of Wills. So I guess I should say more like Malphase. Malphase has the same problem with her Wind Imbue. Yeah, Yao can AoE amplify the party 1 time. One use in Clash of Wills only. Cannot be used out of Clash of Wills, and also that is her only way to imbue the party. Keep that in mind. Whereas Malphase can do it on demand with Inaroga. I keep trying to call her Yao. Addison cannot do that. Addison can only imbue the party 1 single time in Clash of Wills only. So significantly worse on that front. Other than that, the kit is the same. One more thing I'll touch on real quick. A little bit of confusion. This 1400 finisher, which is unlocked, even though the wiki says you can cast 4 times innate abilities does not include unlocked abilities. This cannot be multicasted. The freestyle finish can only be single cast. So she does not have a 5600 modifier, only if you dual wield it, a 2800. In any case, the SLB is the main source of her damage. Now, this was upgraded for global. In JP, you would use things like Titus STMR or Reagan's STMR to get a modifier buff. That won't work on global because it's a morale scaling. They just built that in directly, and that's one of the nice buffs I was talking about. So in JP, Yao, after turn 5, the damage would just significantly go down. Addison won't have that problem because the modifier boost is just built into the kit naturally. So for one thing, it won't wear off. Another thing is it's not taking a gear or a materia slot, etc. It's free, which is convenient. And then she does have morale scaling as well. So 505 in Clash plus 100 from her cooldown, which doesn't have full uptime. It's a 1 use per 4 turns, which is actually pretty awkward, honestly, because at EX3, it would only be available every other SLB. Ooh, that's pretty awkward. I was hoping Global would fix that. They did not fix that. So that's a very awkward cooldown, because this should have been a 3-turn cooldown. Oh, it should have been a 3-turn cooldown. Big missed opportunity. Yeah, so her rotation for optimal damage is still going to be pretty awkward, because that is not going to work. That is not going to line up at all unless you're using like Melissa or something to reduce the cooldown on this. In any case, so in Dark Visions, she's got a 530 LB, which is honestly a little outdated, but her damage is still pretty good. We're going to see that in a minute. And then her Clash of Wills damage is 605 X modifier at max morale. 40% Fist in Peril, 130 Light in Peril. Also keep in mind, she is locked, completely locked to the light element. Now, because she's a physical unit, you can mix elements, so you can add other elements to her. But just like, Sephiroth, Tifa, etc., she is always going to be dealing light element damage with her LB or SLB. So it's a pretty big handicap in some content, like Clash of Wills, for example. If you can't use light, or I shouldn't say if you can't, if the boss is resistant to light, that'll be a pretty big penalty, almost to the point of not being worth bringing. But you could still mix in elements and maybe get around that. Now, the biggest upgrades to her kit came from her global exclusive passives, and this is it right here. This is a global exclusive change. She's a true dual wield unit, and they gave her the true dual wield special cap. In JP, she does not have this. That is why in JP she was very underwhelming, is because, a unit you want a true dual wield, but you don't have the cap, and that's like just a big face palm. Global fixed that problem, and that's a huge thumbs up to the Global team, because this is one of the biggest problems with the JP unit, is she didn't have the proper true dual wield support. Now she does, and that makes her damage so much better on Global, so much better. And I'm gonna show you in a moment. Other than that, pretty generic passives, LB damage, true dual wield, etc. This is also a Global exclusive change. They added 30% mana reduction to her, which is, not really a power level change, but definitely a convenience level change. So very nice to have that. She is a little bit mana hungry, and that'll make it slightly better. Other than that, the usual stuff. Oh, and also another global change is they added Autocast Mood Maker every turn, which is right here. Fills 300 morale plus 100 per unit. So if everyone on the party is alive, that's 900 morale per turn, which is, it's good. It's good. It's a little bit worse than Rain. Rain gives 1,000 per turn, but still, it's almost as good as Rain, and it is just totally free passive. So it's nice. It's not as good as, like, dedicated morale fill units like Melissa, etc. Tsukiko, I think, fills more as well if you're using her skills. But still, it's free morale. It's nice. And then she also has these skills. These are from JP. She can remove debuffs from an ally pretty much on demand. This is an unlocked. You can't do it on turn 1, but as long as you refresh this every 6 turns, it's not a cooldown. it'll, you can do this pretty much whenever you want. Remove debuff from one ally, and it can be quad cast. Or triple cast. And cure statuses, etc., and then imbue herself. And that's kind of the whole kit. Her Clash of Wills leader skill is the same as all the previous units, kind of the copy-paste leader skill. So there it is. Let me go ahead and show you some damage calculations. So in Dark Visions, with her global upgrades, this is approximately where she would land on a Squall leader skill. So 600% leader skill for being a light unit. Now, I do want to say real quickly, just to be fair, at the current time, my damage sheet calculates versus insect and machine, because we've recently had insect and machines. I haven't sat down, because, updating a damage spreadsheet, all these units, is time intensive and very, very tedious. I don't do it that often. We are already beyond the insect and machine Dark Visions. I should update it to the new races. I'll probably update it to like bird, human, when I'm super bored on a weekend. But anyway, the point of me telling you that is Addison Rae does not gear well at all for insect or machine. She has no killers to either one of those. So even with that, I mean, her damage is pretty decent. But I will tell you, her gearing is suffering because I'm gearing against two different races she has no killers on. The next Dark Visions is a bird human. And bird human are two races she does have innates for. So if I actually did a test build for her, if she was gearing for bird human, she'd rank around Yuffie up here. So about 800 billion would be her damage ranking. So honestly, very, very high damage in Dark Visions, depending on the race. As you can see, even on a race where she has no killers whatsoever, she's still pretty high up there. And then on a race where she has her innate killers, she'd be pretty close to the top of the pack, which is really good. So as far as damage goes, that's pretty good. And now for Clash of Wills. Clash of Wills, as we know, the next one is weak to Fire, Earth, and Dark, which is not light. And because Addison is hard locked to the light element, you cannot change that. She's not even being calculated in the normal calculations, but just for comparison's sake, we'll scroll down to the uncalced units, because they're mismatched elements, and check out her damage. If the boss was vulnerable to light, which it is not, but if light was usable, she would be approximately 960 billion damage, which would rank her basically right under Dwayne. And you might be wondering, why is Dwayne so high? Because the next Clash of Wills will be very good for Dwayne. Dwayne can gear for these races perfectly, and Dwayne has a 150 fire amplifier. So that's why Dwayne is so high, because I update my spreadsheet depending on upcoming bosses, and that's what I do. So for the next boss, if she was usable, she would be around second place in damage if we could use light. You might be wondering, what about Richt? Why is he so low? Richt is in the main calculations using an off-element 100 external amplify. For example, like Melissa's or something. So for comparison's sake, if Richt was using his 150 amplify, so Addison would do about the same damage as Richt and Clash of Wills, which is pretty good. It's pretty good as far as damage goes. Now, as far as my personal opinion on Addison Rae, even though she is dealing really good damage in Dark Visions, really good damage in Clash of Wills, if the light element works. That's a big disclaimer there. For example, like Richt, etc., he can go to any element. He's not as good going off of light, but he can do that. Addison can't. Addison is always locked to the light element. Also, compared to someone like Richt, for example, the kit. So while she is doing similar damage to Richt in Clash of Wills if light is usable, I mean, compare this kit to Richt's. Like, Addison doesn't really have a kit, except for damage. The damage is great, but there's no kit here. Like, Richt is doing perfect dispels. Richt is doing all the breaks. Richt is doing, honestly speaking, that's about all Richt is doing. But that's a big deal. I mean, being able to perfect dispel and auto cast perfect dispels, and then do all your breaking. Oh, and in Clash of Wills, Richt also has the debuff removal, the Kaito skill, the Kaito debuff removal, and then Richt also has the Omni weapon in peril as well. So actually, so Richt, you know, has a really good kit. Addison, not so much. She does have the light amplify for Clash. That's nice. So, you know, she does have that. And she does have this skill, this remove all debuffs from one ally. It can be triple cast, so she can remove 3 debuffs per turn. And that's good. Don't let me like downplay that. That is sort of a support kit. And that's nice. That's nice. So anyway, overall, my opinion on the unit Addison Rae. Honestly speaking, a decent unit. You know, not the greatest. Damage, very, very high. Has a few support skills. Nothing great. Like, it's definitely not like a Richt level support kit. But a few nice supporting skills. And it's mostly just damage. And she is an SLB unit, so her damage is really limited by being SLB. Even at EX3, you're only getting the good LB every 3rd turn. So, you know, someone like Richt, you can LB literally every single turn for full damage with LB fill. And you can use her normal LB, which is certainly not bad. It'd be 300. With her cooldown, it'd be 400, but the cooldown is only partial uptime, and you do have to waste a turn to cast the cooldown. Whereas with Richt literally has no setup whatsoever. He's just go, 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 go every single turn. And Richt has no downtime and no setup, nothing. Which is why I love it. I really do love Richt, and I'm kind of going off track talking about Richt during the Addison video. It's just because they're so similar. They're both light element DPS, and they're similar. They're similar damage as well. It's just like, and I guess Richt is premium, which is whatever. Anyway, so overall, you know, it's fine. As far as the unit being Addison Rae, you know, based on a real life person, I don't love the concept of that. And to be clear, I don't really know Addison Rae, the person, at all. This is talking strictly from a meta sense of basing a unit off of a real life person. Same thing with Ariana Grande and Katy Perry. Like, I didn't love those either. I don't love that they made a pop star or a TikTok star as a unit in the game, but that's not the biggest deal for me. Like, you know, some people are really, really frustrated with that. You know, I don't love it, but I'm not like losing my mind over it. Whatever. So she's a decent unit, honestly speaking. She's fine. She's fine. I'm very pleased with her global upgrades. If we had gotten the copy-paste treatment just exactly as is, like Kier and Porin, I would have been like big thumbs down. But Global took the time to actually fix some of the major problems in her kit, and they also added a few global exclusive changes, like the light amplify. So, and they also did the whole thing with fixing the morale gauge and the auto buffing, etc. So I'm pleased with the unit. That being said, I'm probably still not going to pull for her, just because at the end of the day, she's just a damage dealer with not much of a kit. Good damage dealer, don't get me wrong, good damage dealer. But I am more pleased with units like Richt or like Malphasy that have a decent support kit. Like, Malphasy can be your literal wind support unit, because after the big amplify with Malphasy, she can still end Aroga every single turn. If Addison Rae had End Lytra, where she could maintain a light amplify and imbue on the party, even at only 35%, I probably would have gone for her. But the fact that she literally cannot imbue light for the party by any means whatsoever after this one-time Magnus, that for me is just, you know, like, if I needed a light amplify in Clash of Wills or a light imbue, I have to bring a light imbue unit. Like, so she's, you know, Addison is not really fixing that problem. I still have to bring someone to imbue the party, which is a problem. So that's probably my biggest complaint, is they didn't give her End Lytra to AoE imbue the party on demand. Even 35% would have been totally fine. In any case, there's my review. So overall, good unit. You know, definitely For only 27K, I mean, it is a pretty good deal. I got to be honest here. 27K for a unit that had some nice upgrades. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. That's a pretty good deal. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm a little tempted because 27K is not that bad. Did she have a vision card on her banner? I don't think she did. Anyway, at this point I'm rambling. The video's way too long. The unit's fine. The unit's fine. The global team actually fixed a bad JP unit and made them good. So, thumbs up. But they didn't make it good enough, in my opinion. Should have added in Lytra. The biggest complaint. Should have added a on-demand AoE light imbue. Anyway, see you in a bit.